It's January 24th, I think you said, 2019. You're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, coming to you from a nice, quiet Studio B at the Co-Prosperity Sphere. Thanks, as always, for having us, Co-Prosperity Sphere and Lumpen Radio. And thanks to the fearless leader of Lumpen Radio, Mr. Logan Bay. Thanks to producer Serge for coming in on this freezing cold night. What would you say it is? But it's like 10 degrees out there. It's pretty. Oh yeah, use your watch device. -6. Okay. Well, thanks for coming in on this -6 evening, Serge. Much appreciated. And thanks to all you guys listening out there. I appreciate it very much. If you are listening live on 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio or TuneIn Radio or any other streaming radio service, I appreciate it very much. If you're listening via podcast, I also appreciate that very much. Either way, if you wanted to leave us a review or some sort of kind remarks or just pass along to a beer-loving friend of yours that this show is out there, I'd also appreciate that very much. So, yeah, for those of you who are listening for the first time, you're going to hear something for the first time that everyone else has heard many, 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 many times, which is my little prepared statement that I read at the top of every show about the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. So here goes. The goal of this show is to open up a window into how the people making, selling, marketing, and facilitating the beer getting into your glass feel about the topics that are a part of their everyday lives. Many of my greatest beer experiences have been talking about beer while sharing beers with people whose opinions I respect and admire, and it's these experiences I hope to capture with the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Essentially, I just want to I like getting together with people who are passionate about beer and kind of talking about beer issues, more than just do you like this beer, do you not like the beer, just kind of getting a little inside baseball. So it's what I enjoy, and hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. And I'm excited for this show. I was a little nervous, I have to admit, because we had a record number of people cancel at the last minute, all because of health-related issues, either with them or loved ones. And we're down to just me, Serge, and one other fella in the studio today, as well as one person who is Skyping in, but I think it'll be nice. It'll be a nice, intimate affair. So I've changed my outlook on it, and now I think it's going to be cool to kind of have such a concentrated opinion. But that said, to my guests, it's all on you. It's definitely not up to the host in any way to foster discussion. It's all on you, so I will take no blame if this show is terrible, and I will take my fair share of the if it turns out well, it's because of me. Is what I'm trying to say.
Of course.
Yeah. Anyway, before I introduce my guests, I should mention that their opinions are their own, and only their own. They are not the opinions of Lumpen Radio or the Beer Temple or any other entity that they may be affiliated with. So it's important to mention that. And I also want to mention that we always introduce people in order of seniority. So I think, Kate, you're the senior person. How are you, Miss Kate Bernot?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, and I'm so glad to have moved up the ranks
Yeah.
on the humble introduction totem pole. I'm gonna put this on my LinkedIn. It's very exciting.
Sweet.
Yeah.
No longer the last person introduced. Great.
No, feels great. The power, the sense of power is overwhelming.
Don't let it get to your head, okay?
Too late.
Because don't worry. I mean, Edmar could always come running in and just completely thwart the fact that you are the senior person. But I know for a fact that he won't be doing that. So it is just going to be us. It'll be fun. But anyway, what's up with you? How are you?
I'm good. My neck of the woods is warmer than yours at this current moment, which is not often the case. So I'm toasty. I'm good.
Yeah. What's Montana? What's the temperature up there?
I think we're still in the 20s right now. Balmy heat wave.
Nice.
Yeah, practically shorts weather. Yeah, so things are good.
I heard today from somebody that the expected high next week one day, I think maybe Wednesday, is -5. Is the expected high. So that'll be a fun day. So, yeah, I know my aunt who has lived here in Chicago a long time and lived here before I moved out used to say to me, if Chicago was 500 miles further south, everyone would want to live here, and it would be too crowded, and it wouldn't be cool anymore. So you should be happy that it gets cold in the winter because it keeps people out. So I like to try to convince myself that is the case when it's a high of -5. But anyway, well, thanks, Kate, for Skyping in. Appreciate it. And my next guest is so Jake. Is it?
It's Guidry.
Guidry.
The last name is Guidry.
Guidry.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would not be the first or the last person to mispronounce my last name. But yeah,
Guidry.
Jake Guidry.
Yes. And you've been on the show, I think, informally, or were you?
Yes, I was in the Peanut Gallery once before when my coworker, colleague Jonathan Fritz was on the show.
So let's have you then formally. So first-time guests introduce themselves. So let's have you formally introduce yourself, because this is the first kind of formal time that you're on, not in the Peanut Gallery.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Guidry.
Yeah. So my name is Jake. I am the brand director at Hopewell Brewing Company. I've been with them pretty much since the beginning. My role is essentially sales, brand strategy. I write copy for labels. I also help with recipe development, and I manage the barrel aging program. So
just, those things all seem to be
very related. Very typical. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for stepping in, because your coworker is
he's sick.
Not feeling so
he
good.
was I was with him last night, and he was definitely coming down with something. I'm glad I didn't catch it.
Irish flu,
yet.
probably.
Yeah. We were actually in the neighborhood. We were at Dusix for a Brew U event, which is like basically an educational sort of thing, and that was fun. But you definitely tell he was coming down with something. So I'm happy to step in.
Cool. And what's new with you guys at Hopewell?
Well, yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about it later. The biggest thing is us releasing Lil Buddy in 8-ounce cans.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple weeks. We just released it last week, and you heard it here first. We're already kind of basically sold out. We're on allocation at this point. We had to bump up a new brew on the schedule, so it's actually kind of exceeding our expectations already, which is great. Other than that, we're just working on some new beers and expanding some other things that we're doing with the brewery, and just having a good time.
Very cool. Well, we got through the introduction so fast. I mean, I guess we should start talking about what beers you guys have been enjoying lately. And you can't say Little Buddy. That's cheating. Why don't I just go right back to you, Jake? Anything that you've either had lately that you liked, or maybe are looking forward to having, something like that?
Yeah, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna say two, just because I want to shout out a couple of local breweries that have kind of recently had some openings. I was at the Middlebrow opening on Monday, friends and family. They graciously invited the Hopewell team, and so I got a chance to go over there, and I went through the whole menu actually on beers. They have about 6 beers on draft right now, and the one that really stuck out to me was called Nelson Crush.
Everyone's been talking about that Nelson Crush.
Oh, it's a beautiful beer. It's this low ABV. It's a Nelson Pale Ale essentially. I think around 4.5% ish.
Yep.
Just beautiful, kind of citrus, kind of a little bit of white wine. Really delicate, beautiful beer. And the space itself is awesome. I think they're opening tomorrow officially. So
they're opening tomorrow. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll put out the show tomorrow before they open.
Oh, right, of course.
So people can listen and hear that the beer that you are now the third independent
be sold out
person
by then,
who has talked to me about this Nelson Crush beer.
It's
in
truly
fact, every
a great
single
beer.
person I've talked to who went to that mentioned that beer.
Awesome. Yeah, that was definitely a standout. I really look forward to hanging out at that spot in general. It's a cool space, and I think it's a welcome addition to Logan Square, which is where Hopewell is, so it's going to be fun to kind of welcome them to the neighborhood. Second, Twisted Hippo. I had a great beer from them at the Green Lady on Tuesday. I'm just kind of hanging out, and they happen to have a tap takeover. I had their Cashmere Smash. It was like basically a single malt, single hop pale ale. Really deftly done. Like, it was very delicate, very clean, bright citrus, and just a wonderful beer. So I'm excited about a couple new breweries opening up their tap rooms.
Have you heard when they are opening up their tap room?
They opened up already.
They are
they're officially open as of I think a week and a half ago.
Okay, I guess I knew they were open, but are they open and serving their beer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So they're ready to enroll. I mean, Green Lady had 5 of their beers on tap, and I know they're doing a little bit of split time with Great Central as far as cans go, but as far as I know, everything that was on draft at Green Lady was in-house stuff. So yeah.
Great. Well, that's very cool. Congrats to both Middlebrow and Twisted Hippo. I know, especially for Twisted Hippo, it's been a long road to get there. So it's awesome to see that they got open,
Absolutely,
and that's really cool. How about you, Kate? Anything?
Yeah. Last night was fun because a beer bar here in Missoula hosted their Resilience IPA night. So all the Montana breweries that had brewed for that Sierra Nevada project came together and had their beers on draft. And I don't know how fun it would be for... I don't know. They did flights of the beer, which I thought was fun because I like picking apart the minutia of the, seeing how thoroughly people replicated the Sierra Nevada recipe. I don't know how members of the public felt about their flights of all the same beer, but
were there differences?
People were buying them.
Yeah.
People were buying them. So that was really fun. And I mean, I actually tasted a lot of variation between them, so it was kind of interesting.
You did? Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask if they tasted different.
Having them in succession, I felt like, I'm like, oh, this one's a little sweeter, perhaps. This one's a little more bitter. This one has diacetyl. That sucks.
That was the Sierra Nevada one, I'm sure.
Now, currently, I wanted to open a Chicago beer, so I have and it's journalism themed, so that's fun. The Rev Freedom of the Press Black Currant Sour, which is delightful. It's like a LaCroix. I love it. It's bubbly and fruity. It's great.
Hear that those are really big. Those alcoholic seltzers. Yeah. So that's probably what they're going for.
Not exactly what this is, but it's giving me that vibe. It's I feel like I'm hydrating as I drink it.
That's awesome. Pretty low ABV, right? It's one of the ones they talked about low-cal as well.
Yeah. They were promoting it as being kind of a low calorie
I just love
beer.
My low-cal pink fizzy beer.
Yeah.
Not a walking stereotype at all. Here to enjoy my Hun-Cal session sour.
And it's fruited, fruit beers. Yeah.
Love a good pink beer. Yeah.
For me, I'm trying to think if there's any beers that what is jumping out at me that is something that I've really enjoyed. Oh, I know what it is. I had the Half Acre Dungeons yesterday for the first time, since it came out last year, and I think I like it this batch as much as ever, if not more. So I brought a can of that. It's interesting. It is incredibly tropical. I'd be interested to get your opinion on it, Jake, because it's got a lot of those kind of juicy tropical flavors without, I think, some of the other elements. And it is, rather hazy, but it has some other elements or lacks some other elements of the New England beers or juicy hazy beers, whatever you want to call it, that I tend to not like. So I was thinking maybe you could pick apart why maybe I enjoy this beer, but don't like other ones. I think it might be a little more dry. I think it might be.
I think that's kind of the case with a lot of the half-acre beers, is they can kind of extract that fruit-forward citrus and juiciness, but kind of have it finished dry, and it becomes this thing that's actually even more drinkable than you would have expected, and kind of hides the ABV well. But I look forward to trying it. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, well, whenever you want. This is amazing. We are less than 17 minutes in, and we've done all the introductions and all of our what are you drinking? Serge, do you want to talk? What beer? Is there any beer that you've had? I mean, you've never participated in any content on this show, and I kind of want to keep it that way. I don't think you deserve it to give your opinion, but the reality is I do suppose that you are, you are due. If you have anything, is there any beers that you've had lately? He's just shaking his head no. Okay. I don't know if that's no, I don't want to tell you, or no, I don't have any beers, or just move on. But whatever. You guys out there lost your chance to hear producer Serge talk. I think you're following in Logan's footsteps, who would refuse to ever open his mouth and would just silently berate me about things.
Hello, everyone. It's me.
There you go. All right. It's Serge. Well, then I guess we could just dive right into it. You want to talk about small cans, Jake? I'm guessing you do.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, let me
set it up a little bit.
Let me set it up a little. So their Little Buddy is in these shorty 8-ounce like stubby cans, kind of like what I remember seeing like soda in Japan from like when I was a kid. Like, oh my gosh, they have these like little half-size cans, and they were certainly kind of memorable. I think you guys did a pretty good job of getting the visual of it out there ahead of the release. And then I noticed, somebody else was doing it. I was curious, Kate, have you seen any beers in these little 8-ounce cans yet?
I believe I've seen like imperial stouts in them.
Okay.
Not lighter beers side of the spectrum. Of course, I'm blanking off the top of my head the brewery that I saw do imperial stouts in it, but I thought it was. Yes, they're adorable, and I think it's cool to see a different style in them, though, because the imperial stout is so obvious, like why that makes sense. But I'd be really curious to hear about the idea of putting like a highly drinkable, low ABV lager in them.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a highly drinkable, low ABV lager. 4 packs is how you kind of released it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, take it away. Tell us about Little Buddy a little bit.
Yeah, so Little Buddy is essentially, we call it a little lager. That's how it's kind of labeled on the can, but it's a Hella style, essentially. 4.7%, really soft, really easygoing lager. And at Hopewell, we had been sort of toying with the idea of 8-ounce cans for a long time, even before we got our own canning line.
And why?
Just because we... just visually, it was kind of like, oh, this is a cool thing. And then we started to think, well, what made sense in that can? And like Kate said, the obvious thing is big imperial stouts and whatnot. But I would personally, I was at a bar and I was having a Bloody Mary, and I got that 8-ounce High Life kind of beer back, and I said, oh, wait. Here's something that's already existing in the market that's very widespread, and it has a function unto itself. It's great to have an imperial stout because you want to have less, but I think with a light lager, it's actually creating a new sort of category in craft. I think it has
is what?
In like, for instance, we can by having the smaller size, we can hit a lower price point, and then we can start to become be in the conversation as like beer in a shot special, beer back to a Bloody Mary, last call beer at a bar. And that was kind of the focus, was how this functions at bars. And actually, interestingly enough, since we've released it, it has been crushing it at liquor stores. It is by far like exceeding our expectations. And we're realizing, people just want to have a little bit of beer. A lot of the times, parents, when they get home from work and before they take the kids and give them a bath or whatever, they just want to have a little quick beer and they don't want to have a full 12 or 16 ounce. And so we're seeing a lot of excuse the term, like functionality with the size. And, where that same person who's coming home after work, they're not necessarily wanting an imperial stout. The light lager has such a more universal kind of a appeal to it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to have a Bach version or something called Skipper? Are you going to play on this Gilligan? Is there going to be a whole Gilligan's Island theme that you're going to basically transition to?
We did not pick up on the Gilligan's Island theme at all.
Doesn't he calls him Little Buddy like all the time?
It's funny you say that because we're about to do a release party. It has kind of like a
60s vibe.
Yeah, and we're about to do a release party at Empty Bottle here in Chicago. And they made a poster for it, and they put Gilligan on the poster. I'm like, wait, what is this? I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, so that was not intentional. It was not intentional at all. No.
Funny. So it makes sense that you were putting this out as kind of to differentiate. And Kate, by all means, just jump in and ask any questions you want. Let's grill this guy on 8-ounce cans and have him really speak for the entire format is what I'm hoping for. And also, I do want to get back to, you said something about how just imperial stouts, it's so obvious, Kate. I'd like you to maybe at some point elaborate on that for some people who maybe don't see why that is just an obvious thing. I certainly have some ideas. So why do you functional at home? That is curious to me. I'm curious. I mean, to me, it makes sense in a bar for the light alcohol, the light lager, low alcohol thing. Like you said, like a beer in a shot. That's what at the beer temple we were doing, like a beer in a shot type thing. Beer backs, which are definitely popular here in the Midwest. I know they're not necessarily everywhere. I had never heard of one before I moved out to Chicago. Actually, I think I visited Milwaukee for the NCAA tournament, and they were like everywhere with like Bloody Marys and stuff like that. And I thought it was the coolest thing. I thought it was because of the bar I was in. It was just some like random Irish bar, and they had this like crazy Bloody Mary with all these like accoutrements. They had like chunks of cheese and pickles and this and that.
Was it Sobelman's?
No, I don't even think the place is around anymore.
Okay.
My point is, and they also had a beer back with it, and I thought this place was the coolest place. I bought a T-shirt of it, and then I realized when I moved out to Chicago years later, it was just the most standard thing, and I just was associating it with this, telling my friends how cool it was at this one bar, when it was definitely a Wisconsin and a Midwest thing. Do you think that after the initial pull, do you think this is going to have repeat pull-through on premise? Do you think that people are going to continue to want these small formats, or do you think it's more of a curiosity for this style specifically? I'm not saying the format, but this style of beer in this format in off-premise.
Sure.
Yeah.
Actually, when we kind of talked about this beer, when we were in, we do a lot of kind of concepting and talking amongst ourselves before we release anything. We especially with something like this, which is new to is a completely new concept in the craft scene. There's not been many breweries yet who have done this. We spent a lot of time talking, and one of the conversations we said was, well, is this going to move at all off premise at all? We thought this was definitely an on premise thing. So we had to kind of hedge our bets in terms of batch size. And we had to kind of say, we need X amount of counts to have this on their menu as a beer and a shot special, as a thing with the Bloody Mary. To kind of make it a successful thing. So the short answer is we have no idea. For us, like the off-premise thing is kind of gravy. At this point, we're already on allocation, as I said, and so if it continues to be this great pull-through, then we'll have to brew more. But at the end of the day, for us, it's meant to be. We intended it to be an on-premise thing, so if that can be successful at that point, like that's enough for us. But if it becomes this thing off premise, then it's great.
Yeah, I mean that would be What's up?
You've hopefully reached out to Underberg already and are doing like a tiny packaging deal, right?
Oh,
like
that would be amazing.
That's my dream is Underberg and the Little Buddy.
Oh, I like that idea.
I was when you were mentioning the parents coming home and just liking that small low ABV package. I do not personally have children myself, but I'm very scared that it may mean I can't commit to 12 ounces of light lager.
Right.
That extra 4 ounces is
extra
just
four just does you in, I guess. But it's adorable. Like I love the package. I love how sweet it looks, and the idea of it on premise makes a lot of sense to me. I had to laugh at the parenting comment.
No, that was part of the internal conversations was who actually wants less than 12 ounces of lager. Like the whole point of lager is to drink a lot of it. And then you start to realize, well, wait, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who drinks a lot of beer. And so kind of what we're seeing is, well, this is actually bringing in potentially new people who just want to have a little bit. And so I think it kind of goes to show that internally at a brewery, you can kind of get in your own heads and you can kind of think, well, this is how people want to drink, and you're not thinking about potential new people coming into the space. And we have yet to see, of course, how this is going to play out overall, but I think it's potentially something that could open up some new customers and get people thinking a little bit differently about how they drink their beer. That's
cool. And another thing that Kate touched on was interesting packaging of the multi-pack. So right now they're just in the standard snap packs, 4-pack cans of Little Buddy. I heard a rumor today, and I want to see if there's any truth to it, because it sounds amazing if it is true. Kate, I heard that there was some talk, again, this could be totally false, at Hopewell, of almost doing like packaging, like they package tennis balls in like a clear tube where you like crack the little like Pringles can top off, or like you do with a tennis ball thing.
Have you guys seen the Snap Pack wines?
No.
They're like little plastic cups that you snap off each other.
Okay.
Yeah, get in touch with those people, because if I could just like break off like literally like a candy bar, just like crack one off.
Break me off a Little Buddy.
Break me off, and then we toss it to each other, and then we do an 80s like high five montage. That would be ideal.
I forgot to mention, we do have a Super Bowl commercial airing in 2 weeks for a Little Buddy. Yeah,
good.
It's been doing that well. So.
That's awesome. That's great that it did so well so fast, and that you guys really not only doubled down, you probably exponentially down.
Yeah, we're going out of business immediately after, so
but it's worth it, man.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Cool. Do you have a good celebrity to endorse it, I hope? Don't tell me who. I want it to be.
Right.
You can give me a hint if you want.
His name rhymes with Drank Thomas.
Oh, right. Okay, good. He's a fan of beer and stuff like that. Cool. Well, that's congratulations and my condolences at the same time.
Yes, thank you.
So, Kate, let's get back to what you were saying with it. You think it makes a lot of sense for Imperial Stouts, because I do know that it didn't take long for the second 8-ounce can in Chicago to be released. Another brewery, Saint Laurent, who we've had some folks from that brewery on the show as well, they came out with an 8-ounce can. It also sold very well at our store, and it was a pastry stout, essentially. It was marshmallow, vanilla, chocolate something stout. So, and it was a rebrew that they had done in 750s the previous time. So, but I don't. So, it has also been released as a stout here in Chicago. I'm curious why that makes so much sense to you, Kate.
Yeah. The name of the brewery that I was imagining their little stout in my mind was a Flat 12 out of Indianapolis. Did one, I don't know if that was a one-time deal or whatever, but that was their Russian Imperial Stout in little guys. But I remember thinking that made so much sense because it's just about the only single serve Russian Imperial or any kind of Imperial Stout really packaging. Even a 12-ounce bottle, I'd still probably be looking for someone to share that with. But this, I think 8 ounces is a perfect solo drink, or split it between two people and you're really just having like a festival type sample of it.
Sure.
And I don't know, something about the can also, I don't know, cans always just encourage me to drink something more than like opening the bottle. I mean, that's like a completely psychological thing, but a can, it just feels like less, it's more encouraging to me in my fridge. So I don't know.
Because it's easy. You don't have to like get a bottle opener or something. Just no.
Yeah, 'cause I don't have any of those. It's hard to come by, and it's so much effort.
I don't even remember the last time I've seen a bottle opener. Yeah.
Who's got the time? So yeah, I think it just invites like a single person to dive into it. Also, just like the high ABV, obviously. I don't know. To me, it just it makes sense for the big beers. Like a 750 of an Imperial Stout is like I'm having a party, or else this is just gonna sit.
I totally agree with that. That the 750 Imperial Stout, or even double IPA, or barley wine, certainly it became a thing. You know, with bombers. Let's say even 22 ounces doesn't need to be 750. It became this kind of occasion beer. And as a result, there are now, quote unquote cellars, aka closets, all over the country that are full of 22-ounce bombers of long dead Imperial Stout, because there just weren't enough occasions to warrant opening up, 22 ounces of a 13% beer. And I think 12 ounces was great. And I think 8 ounces is even better, because it is more in line with the size pour you would get at a bar if you got an Imperial Stout. You're probably not going to get, if you got a 12-ounce pour of like a Bourbon County Stout or some other, similar beer, that'd be a lot. I would not be super excited about that.
A bar in Missoula that shall remain nameless, last winter, was out with friends. One of them orders that year's Bourbon County on draft, and it comes in a shaker pint.
I was just gonna say shaker pint,
and I was flabbergasted. Like, one, are you just setting money on fire? How did this work? Also, shaker pint of Bourbon County for $6. I texted all my friends, like, if you guys want to party for $6,
I need to one up you on this story.
I'll see if I can. I got
okay.
a couple of these.
No, I'm pretty sure I have the ultimate. This was granted probably 5 or 6 years ago. This was in St. Louis at a bar called Nick's Pub. They were notorious for, on Thursdays, doing like craft beers for $2 in the shaker pints. One Thursday they were pouring up Perennial Abraxas for $2 in a shaker pint.
Whoa.
This is before, this is, they probably wised up by now, but
I think that's a mistake. In both instances of them
a good
just
night
not
for me,
knowing the beer, not knowing really how that beer is meant to be drank, how much that beer cost. Perhaps, even the bartender was just like, I don't know, I pour beer in shaker pints. That's what I do. There's a guy who works at Beer Temple named John, who was telling me today that at a local bar in his hometown, he went to a craft beer bar, and got served. They ordered, I think, 2 hop slams, and they got 2 pitchers of hop slam.
Okay, yeah, that's next level.
So yeah, pitchers of hop slam.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to. I don't even try to finish that.
You don't want to.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be
that's a good bowling alley order. You know,
right. Yeah, I'll just take a couple pitchers. Who's got next round? Man. So yeah, it's funny. I would definitely prefer an 8-ounce pour in either a can. I think the small little bottles. So Off Color here in Chicago released 2 packs of their kind of like 330 ml bottles, which I think is along the same lines, and it's interesting. So with Little Buddy, you guys are kind of doing the same thing that I've been seeing with the bigger beers. I think we're charging something like $5.99 or something. Mm-hmm. Don't quote me on that. Something along those lines. And I do think that at that price, it just invites people to at least try it. And if they love it,
right.
It's definitely an add-on purchase. It's like, I'm going to get whatever I'm going to get. And then in addition to it, I'm getting this 4-pack of Little Buddy. I didn't see people necessarily substituting what they were normally going to get. Mm-hmm. It was definitely kind of like an add-on for $5.99. But as other friend of the show, Josh Noel, noted in an article he wrote on your beer, that it's price per ounce. It's pretty much in line with what a 6-pack would be, roughly. Right. I think he said what it'd be like a $13 6-pack, something like that.
Right. It'd be if you just double it and make it a 4-pack 16-ounce, then it's a $12 kind of thing. So it's actually pretty in line with what the rest of the industry is doing. So yeah, so it's we're pricing it to the point where it's accessible, but we actually price it more aggressively on premise and so we kind of blend those margins to make it a more even less expensive for bars to serve it.
Uh-huh.
I'd be curious, in the retail space, is there any challenge with getting retailers to properly display and like these kind of less traditional packages? Like, do you get potentially stuck on a weird shelf somewhere, not grouped with others? Or, Chris, you are a retailer.
For us, we just had it just on shelves with everything else or stacked. I mean, we treated it like any other local beer, but I think because they take up the same amount of space in terms of width and depth, they're just shorter. They're not as tall, that they really just kind of slide into any sort of display, even like a cooler or like some sort of rack, and you could just put them right in the same thing. They would just take up half the height of
right.
it. I haven't noticed it, we didn't really occur to us that was an issue. But have you noticed anything?
It's all again. This is all very new, so we haven't necessarily gone to every account that we've sold to and kind of seen how they've presented it. But that was something we thought about for sure in the beginning. Was how will this be displayed? For instance, we thought, well, maybe we have this kind of positioned at the front at the register as an impulse buy kind of thing, like if you were at the grocery store and you pick up a candy bar. Yeah, exactly, like that sort of thing. But we haven't even gotten that far in terms of positioning it, just because it's we haven't had time. It's only been a week and a half since we've released it. But yeah, short answer is no, we haven't seen that. But definitely be interesting to see how people position it. We've seen a lot of people kind of do their own legwork to advertise it, which has been crazy. We have never seen that with our brand before. Is people are posting about it on Instagram, and we're just getting so much interaction, and it's just it's great for us. It's definitely exposing our brand to new people, and that's been very exciting. So yeah, we're learning, and just like everybody is, I think, with the size.
So what I see it being certainly more so than in the case of Hopewell, which I think you guys are are making a good kind of cost per ounce, considering it's a light lager, which I think in other instances, I think people would expect it to maybe be, your kind of like most affordably priced beer or something that you would get in a 12-pack or a 15-pack. And I think it's interesting that you guys can keep a healthier margin on something in that style because of formatting. I think it's very clever, and that really got me thinking along the lines of these like stouts and stuff like that. Is I tend to think that the bomber has died. The 750 is hurting. I don't know if it's dead, but oh hey, it's a bunch of people from Pipeworks. What are they? Just running. It's Garrett, the owner of Pipeworks. Oh, and BJ, the other owner. I don't know if they're going to come in or not. If they want to come in, open up the door for them. Very weird. So, what I was going to say. Oh, so the kings of the bombers, the Pipeworks guys. So, the bomber has just they're not doing very well right now.
It's pretty much
dead. It is dead. And I think that from for off-premise stuff, I'm sure a lot of craft brewers are not too happy about that because they were a very, very profitable format for people. Pipeworks, just because they're on the top of my mind right now because they distracted me, they built their brewery on bomber margins. I mean, they were very, very bottle heavy. They had hardly any draft, and they were all bombers, everything. And they had a million different beers, a million different styles, and it really was profitable for them, and it allowed them to become had a great foundation for them to kind of grow from, and got them very, very healthy. And I'm sure that that's something that craft brewers now would love to see again. I think it's, not quite the same. I think prices overall the ceilings have been kind of creeping up. I think the high end, people are willing to pay $15 for a 4-pack of IPA now, sometimes even $20 if it's, depending on how many bottle caps it gets. If it's a 3-bottle cap beer, no one's paying $20. I mean, let's be real. 4.2 bottle caps, that's another story. Yeah. So I see this as a way for them to recapture that extra margin because, in the case of these Saint-Laurent beers, they were $16. I think I had originally thought it was $14. It was actually, $15. It was $15.99 for a 4-pack of a stout, where I believe they were charging, I think, about the same price, or a little less for a 750 before. And I think this is a format that people are more likely to pick up because it is more drinkable, and they can, make a really healthy margin on it, which for little guys starting out, for everybody it's nice, but I think for the little guy who isn't able to make the volume and kind of do the volume play as easily, I think it's a very nice thing to be able to do and a very smart play. So I would be curious to see if a lot of the little guys start really wanting to push that format because they can make better margins on it. And I'm not just saying that they're doing that to the detriment of the drinker, because I think the fact that it's funny, people are paying a premium for less in a way because it makes more sense. That's how they want to consume those beers, and they'll actually end up wasting less. They won't have
they can then break that singular beer into 4 different experiences versus just the one where they might have poured out half of it because they couldn't finish it.
Exactly. And then in that case, it maybe is it is a better deal for them and better value because they actually did consume all 32 ounces versus 11 ounces and then dumped the other 11 out. Yeah.
I think it's an attractive proposition for drinkers. I was hearing some readers were commenting on something I had written this week that they're much more likely to try new beers on premise than off because the risk, the financial risk is lower, right? Like you buy a pint and it's not great. All right. Whereas you buy the 6-pack or even the 4-pack of Tall Boys and it's not great. Oh, you're out, this $15. So I think that price point that Little Buddy's at, and then especially for a style you might not even be sure you like a pastry stout or something that you're kind of like still on the fence about, if it's priced at that sub $10, I think that's a much more attractive impulse buy, take a risk on a brewery you don't know or a style you're not sure you like.
Absolutely. I got a text / correction from Doug Valicki, who's listening live on 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio, Chicago. That gets us through? All right, now we're good. Who corrected me and said that the 8-ounce bottles from Off Color are actually 4-packs, not 2-packs. Their 2-packs are 12-ounce bottles, is what he said. He's still upset that we were dissecting his Instagram article from last week and telling him how he was wrong. And sorry, Doug, but I appreciate the correction here. I do think that it will get people to maybe experiment. I'm curious. I don't know if the days of trading are ever going to kind of come back, but it does seem like it's a very tradable, or even you pick one up and you give one to your friend, and so it's interesting. It's almost like the how many people are actually going to have this 4-pack. One person could buy it and then give 2 of them away to 2 different people, and you could kind of spread out and get your beer tasted by a lot of people. I don't know. I kind of like it. I don't mind that they're expensive. And again, I'm talking about these stouts. I'm curious if it's interesting. The customer has become so much more educated about craft beer. One thing I haven't seen the same level of education on is cost per ounce. They seem to be getting that at the draft line, because as soon as anything hits a certain cost per ounce, everyone freaks out. But in cans or bottles or any sort of package, it's the exact opposite, where people will, it's just the straight dollar amount that they look at. They don't look at the format necessarily. So
I think this is a weird thing, but I think people have a really hard time judging volume. And when they see those like little 4 8-ounce cans, they might be like, this isn't the same amount of beer as a bomber. This is crazy that I'm spending $16. I'd rather get the bomber, and then it's more. I think that's just like a visual thing that people kind of have a hard time getting over. But generally speaking, I think brewery to brewery, the decision to go to 8 ounce is going to differ. And I think at the end of the day, it can be very positive for consumers, but it's got to be positive for the brewery too. So, for instance, Rev, for example, doing their barrel age series, why would they trade down to 8 ounce? What would be the reason? They're selling that beer just fine. Are there any customers that are passing on the 12-ounce cans because they wanted it in less? I mean, that to me is a question. These are things that we've thought about internally, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on why a brewery would necessarily trade down if they're having just to find enough time selling that beer out in the first place.
Here's what I think. Well, do you have any strong opinions about that, Kate?
I'm just really sad that all these 8-ounce beers didn't come out before Christmas, because stuffers. But I have no specific opinions on the.
I think like if you're taking someone like Rev, for example, and we'll use Rev just because I know someone who works there happens to be listening live and could be getting very upset at me misrepresenting maybe the facts, but that's fine. That's what I like to do here. So. I would say for them, what they could do is, again, potentially go for a win-win over even the the 4-pack 12-ounce cans that they do now, which was, I think, received very well by people who were thankful that they weren't, in bombers, and they were just tired of these beers being in bombers, and we're grateful for it. I think they could do that same thing and spread out their, make more packages of it, reduce the price again, playing along the lines of, listen, it's cheaper now. You have to spend less money to buy 4 of these, and even maybe make more per ounce. So I think they could make it more profitable while also making it a more attractive purchase for a consumer. And, the fact that the consumer is paying more per ounce, maybe it doesn't matter, because I know from I love Cafe Death. I think it's just an amazing coffee stout, barrel-aged stout, and I know at least one of the cans of the 4 that I got, it was too much, even 12 ounces on a Wednesday night, and half of it went to waste. So, if that was in 8 ounces, I think if I had the option to buy, let me ask you guys, if you had pick whatever, let's say Bourbon County Stout was now in 4-packs, 12-ounce cans, and 4-pack 8-ounce cans next to each other. Let's say they were identical cost per ounce. Which one would you pick up, or would it not matter, or depend on the situation?
Well, of course, I'd take the 8-ounce, but that's just not how it's going to actually act in the real world. They're not going to be the
Why
same
not?
cost per ounce because, well,
I'm saying that's okay.
They're not going to be the same cost per ounce because the cost for cans are the same from 8 to 12 to 16 ounce. So for us, if we trade down from a 12 to an 8 ounce, we all of a sudden have to have 50% more materials to make that beer, and we have to sell 50% more cases. So that means we have to spread it out more thinly, because that's the only function. Not the only function, but if you're already selling your beer out, why would you trade down to 8 ounces? That means that you want to send it out to more accounts. In my opinion, that'd be the best reason for doing that. But I think that's going to vary from brewery to brewery. In the case of Bourbon County, I mean, we've already seen what happens when they trade down in size from bombers to 16.9. They actually raise the price, and people are still buying that. So it's not going to mean cost effectiveness necessarily for the end consumer. It's going to mean that they can spread the beer out more, I think. So so I think we got to look at it not just from the consumer end point, but how it actually benefits.
Well, let's just say it's a $20 12-ounce 4-pack and a $14 8-ounce 4-pack.
I mean, I go for the lower dollar amount total. Yeah, so
Yeah.
for $14, yeah, for sure.
So, how about you, Kate, in that scenario?
Wow. It's a lot of math, you guys know. No, actually, I'm going to be contrarian here. Stay with me. And I think I'm going to still go with the 12 ounce because when I open one can, I'm probably sharing it with someone else. 6 ounces is a good share between 2 people. And then if that third person sneaks in, you're still getting 4 ounces each. Whereas if there's an 8-ounce can that you open and now there's a third person, now you're licking little dribbles, out of the can, and that's sad.
You're really contorting yourself to come up with a scenario.
And then another person shows
An
up.
unannounced friend, a
my
long-lost
dog goes,
cousin
"What?"
shows up. She loves barrel-aged stouts. Yeah. So you would say you would go for the bigger one.
Yeah, and I think in that scenario too, in terms of the pricing, like if I'm already throwing down 20, like to me the gap between the $15 and the $20 is not that much. If I'm breaking into the more than 20, then that's a different. But something between 15 and 20 to me is not as huge of a psychic difference.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with a brewery, for example, let's say a brewery who sells out their barrel-aged stouts instantly all the time, I think the 8-ounce can be a way for them to spread that around so more people get to have access to that, and then raise the price per ounce. So that is a win-win in that scenario. I think that is that would be a unique scenario, though. I don't think that would be every brewery.
I am getting some feedback from Doug. The most important thing that he wants me to make sure I get out there is that he says, let people know that I'm at home with a newborn, and congratulations to the Vlickys for their beautiful newborn daughter. But he doesn't want people to think that he's some loser who listens to the show live. That is what he said.
Oh, he's live tweeting it right now.
Yeah. Can you at least mention that I have a newborn so people don't think I'm a loser for listening live? So, are you happy, Doug? There you go. So yes. He said a few other things, some actual points, but I'm not going to let those go over the air. There you are.
You got to be here to have your points put across.
You loser.
Ask him if 12 ounces of light lager has become suddenly overwhelming.
Yes. I'm being told before that by Serge, who is in classic Logan fashion, is yelling at me by writing something on a screen. We have to go to underwriting. We've taken way too long. Why don't we do this? Let's go to underwriting, and then during underwriting, DJ Serge will run in here and start playing some music. So we'll take a 10-minute plus 90-second break, and then we'll come back with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
It's always the same as always. It's a game that we play, no one's safe. Maximize all the pleasure, even with all this weather, nothing can make it better. Maximize all the pleasure, maximize all the pleasure, even with all this weather, nothing can make it better. Maximize all the pleasure. Does sex even sell anymore? I feel like I've seen it all. Or maybe I'm just old.
Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by Kate. Is it Bernot or Bernot? I know I've asked you this before.
It's Bernot,
Bernot.
and I'm glad that I'm not the only guest whose last name is a source of trouble.
Like Jake Guidry.
Yes,
Nailed
you
it.
got it. You nailed it.
My other guest. And thanks for being here, guys, and thanks everyone out there for tuning in, including the Pipeworks folks who are also texting me and making jokes about their upcoming all Bomber brew pub, which they said everything will be in Bombers. It'll be the only format that you'll be able to get anything, which will be interesting for a brew pub, because then presumably
Just bottle service,
they're also it's just bottle service, all made and packaged right there. So
Great.
literally no reason for them to do it, but I like it. It's new, it's different, and it's thinking outside the box. One thing that we were talking about, in the room here, so you were not privy to this, Kate, and I think we've talked a lot about 8-ounce cans, but there's one more thing I thought was kind of interesting, was we were talking about, would one spend $16 for a 4-pack of 8-ounce cans of a stout? And, we're like, I don't know, that's a big ask of somebody. But then, we were saying, what if they sold them as individuals, even just in the case, didn't even have them with those pack techs. They could save the money on that and just send them loose. And then it's a $3.99 can. you might get that kind of add-on or kind of mix and match. And, I'll pick up 2 of these and 1 of those. And, before you know it, you've not only spent $16, maybe you've spent, $20 or $24 on little just 18 or 8-ounce cans. I could see that. I could see that being interesting, certainly to the customer. And then I thought from my perspective as a retailer, not liking that at all, simply because I'd have to move 24 units for a case, which is the one thing that I know retailers did not like about Bombers was, 6-packs were the main thing, way back when. You only had to move 4 units for a case. You had to make 4 sales, and then that case was out the door. So you could bring in, to me, fresh product. I did not want the product getting old. It was, I want to keep it really lean, not have a lot of backstock and keep stuff, pulling through. And for Bombers, that was just more difficult to do because you had to get 3 times as many people to decide to buy that beer at often the same cost as a 6-pack. And asking double that, 24 different purchases of a beer is asking a lot. So it would have to be, 4.3 bottle caps at least before I'd even consider doing that.
Let's be honest here.
Yeah, it'd have to be 4.4, or else I'd have to just duct tape them into 4 packs or something like that to kind of make myself feel better about having moved through them. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now about 8-ounce cans. And I wanted to talk about wild ales a little bit. Jake, are you okay talking about this beer that is in
absolutely.
my glass? Okay,
Yeah.
because you brought an unlabeled beer.
Yes.
Presumably because you couldn't get TTD approval, I assume is why it wasn't labeled.
Yes. It's actually a new wild ale we are releasing next week. It's an oak age wild ale with fermented with pawpaw fruit, which I know pawpaw is one of those kind of weird words people hear, might not know what it is. Sort of a kind of regional Midwestern fruit that's some people call it the Indiana banana.
I like the alliteration.
Yeah, but it's
not an alliteration, but I like the rhyme.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's kind of a cross between a mango and a banana in terms of flavor. We use 200 pounds of that, so about a pound per gallon of pawpaw fruit in this one in our wild ale base.
Nice.
Yeah,
it's delightful.
Awesome. Glad you like it.
Yeah. And what format are you going to be releasing this in?
500 mil. Yeah, so it is a tough format. But we brew very little of it in general. Last year in 500 mils, we did about 20 total brewers barrels of wild ale. We brewed more Schwartz beer than wild ale last year, which is kind of a good kind of way to talk about this subject.
Kind of contextualize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I specifically said wild ales because I was talking to somebody about this, and we were talking about sour beers, and we realized that we were quickly talking about 2 different things. I think when you have sour beers, you're also including, the stuff that, the stereotypical girl beer drinker such as Kate likes, which is the fruity, spritzy, low alcohol, low calorie, tart beer.
Preferably pink.
Yes.
LaCroix-esque. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Kettle sours. I mean,
yeah.
Right? We're trying to draw that distinction.
Yeah, exactly. I think that those beers, I don't think they're going to be taking over, pale ale anytime soon, but I do think that they're going to have a place, especially in either warmer climates or warmer times of year. I could see them being, a kind of a summer crusher type thing where people want something that is very portable, kind of a boat beer type thing, having them in cans and just something that's really very refreshing.
And easy to wrap your head around. I mean, most of them that have the fruit edition, you drink it. Oh, cool. Tastes like tastes like the thing on the label. That 10-barrel
Tastes like freedom of the press.
tastes like the Bill of Rights. I think about the 10-barrel cucumber crush, which just tastes like straight spa water. I mean, there's nothing to sit around and dissect. It's like as billed. Cool. It said cucumber, tastes like cucumber. This said strawberry, tastes like strawberry. Great. Don't have to think any more about that.
So those are not specifically what I'm wanted to focus on, except in context to wild ale specifically, which are the non-kettle sours, maybe mixed fermentation, spontaneous fermentation, and stuff that typically takes much longer to sour to create. Often is either in stainless tanks, but often in wood is fermented or aged in wood, which the time and the fact that it's in a wood vessel, that adds cost to it as well. Sitting in a tank, they tend to be more complex. I'm not saying that that makes them better or worse. They are just more complex beers. They're more expensive, and I think that makes it by necessity. One has to be kind of often more educated in beer to kind of really get into them, where I think you can pick up a spa water beer and be like, oh, this is great, I like spa water. Where, there's not a lot of people saying like, oh, I love the taste of pencil erasers and, stuff like that. This is great. And I've really seen a tough time personally for these wild ales. They were kind of the darling of the beer geeks for a while, kind of like the Uber beer geeks, Everyone liked barrel-aged stouts, but then it was cool to like sour beers too. And people were spending a lot of money on really pricey, large format bottles of wild ale. And it's interesting because I think there is so much excellent wild ale being produced in the United States now, and in the world overall. And I think that they're just not as popular as they once were, and I'm just curious if that will change, if there's anything behind it, if there's any way to change that. And I think Ed Marr was on the show a couple weeks ago talking about how at CBC a couple of years ago it was all about a cool ship. Everyone was putting in a cool ship. Everyone was buying a cool ship. These sour programs have proliferated in a lot of ways, and I'm curious what that says for the style and for breweries brewing the style, and certainly for breweries who were hoping to only make those kind of beers. And there were a lot of breweries wanting to do that too. We do either mixed fermentation farmhouse only or just straight up wild ales, pucker stuff. Any thoughts? I mean, you brought a wild ale.
Yeah. I kind of came up in, as far as a beer geek goes, I kind of came up in that scene of wild ales. That's before I was in the industry. I was your typical, looking for Cantillon, looking for a side project, Hill Farmstead, etc. And I think kind of what has happened is sort of a little bit of the mystique around wild ales has subsided. I think when people first had them, it was sort of this wonderment, like, oh, how
you got one of them,
right? Or how do people make this? Like, this is so different as far as an American drinker goes. How do people make this? And at the time, I think the people who were really dedicated to making them and the ones you could get a hold of were actually better examples than the ones you get today, because by virtue of being a fewer amount of breweries making them, and ones dedicated to figuring out how to do that, you're going to have better examples than you do now.
Okay, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So you kind of think that maybe the overall, like the mean bottle cap score was higher back then.
Yeah,
I only think in bottle caps. That's you have to convert everything to bottle caps for me.
Right. I think the people who were on the cutting edge of making these beers in America, in the States, were and not all of them were making them super well, but I think a lot of the first ones to do it we still look at as like great breweries. So like the ones I mentioned, Hill Farmstead and Casey, et cetera, et cetera.
Lost Abbey, Russian River.
Exactly. Even Russian River is a great example. Like, and to me personally, it was this kind of awe-inspiring thing, and that's kind of what led me into figuring out how to make these on a homebrewer scale. And I think more and more information was kind of put out there with brewers, and there's more of a kind of base of knowledge between the brewing industry and I think kettle sours has sort of kind of hit that hard big time.
Yeah. Well, just to push back, not because I disagree, but so you can maybe clarify what you said before. So the same thing happened with hazy beers as well. I think that the very first examples that were coming out of New England were still considered to be some of the best that there are. There was kind of a glut of or not, like a bunch of people just trying to put anything hazy out there, and the quality kind of suffered. And I think now the code has kind of been cracked, and people just know how to make these beers, but it never seemed to. And also there was this kind of mystique with those beers as well, with like, whoa, how do you get one of those? I've heard about these, and that hasn't seemed to negatively impact those types of beers. Why do you think it didn't with them, but maybe is with Wild Ales?
Right. I think you're absolutely right. I think when those beers started to hit the market, the sours, the Wild Ales, I think a lot of people wanted to try every one they could get their hands on. But at the, I think from a palate perspective, me, even personally, I love Wild Ales. I love great sour beers, etc. But that to me is only going to make up about 5% of my total consumption. So there might have been a spike of that when it first kind of came to the market. I was looking for that, but now I kind of know what's out there. I know what's good. I have access to it, and it becomes this thing where I crack once a month at home, or if I see a especially great one out in the market, I'll have it. But I'm still drinking pale ales and pilsners most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's up, Kate?
Yeah, I would agree that perhaps there is just a smaller, not only market of people, but the people who enjoy them are not drinking them as frequently as you're drinking other styles. I mean, I think about a brewery like Allagash, who makes incredible coolship and wild fermented beers, but that's not the bulk of their production, even though they're considered something of a leader in that field. You got to sell a lot of white to sell to make the coolship cerise. So maybe that's just the way that food pyramid looks.
Yeah, and I we've talked about on the show, probably to people who listen every week ad nauseum, about my just kind of disbelief and general sadness over the fact that Coolship Red was on draft for relatively long periods of time at different accounts in Chicago, as kind of a sign of the apocalypse for wild ales. And there's no reason for me to think that if it was around regularly, it would just kind of have very little interest. I mean, Red Poppy from Lost Abbey has been sitting on our shelves for, it's just always there now. And that used to be something where it would be gone the day we got it in. It's still as good as it used to be. It's interesting.
Perhaps that style is just, I do think for years, what we were all lumping together in the sour beer conversation, but should more accurately call wild or mixed fermentation beers, were were the badge of your sophistication, right? Like as a beer drinker, that was how you showed that you knew what was good.
Right.
And I don't know that that's, I think people still enjoy them, but I don't know that that's the signifier anymore.
Right. No, totally. I would 100%. Yeah, agree that some of the cachet has worn out, and it's just now, which is maybe not a bad thing. It's just another type of beer, and if you like them, cool. If you don't, also cool. It's not some sort of like you said, badge of honor or kind of proof that you know what you're talking about to like wild ales. Yeah.
It was the litmus test, So what kind of beers are you into? Oh, I'm into like sour beers. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah,
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, now, it's like, oh, great, you like that? Cool, me too. We're not in the same club. We don't have the same tattoo, whatever. It's, we can like different things.
Right.
And I don't know what that new standard bearer has become, and maybe we've gotten rid of it, which I think is maybe a good thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
What is that new? Oh, do you like that? Cool. You get it.
Smoked beer, Rauch beer.
No.
Call it
Grub
Pat Burger.
beer.
Call it Wilmore.
Yeah, I know that's what they're at home screaming. But yeah, you know what? I think it might be. I know what it is. Pilsners.
Pilsners. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that will
Right.
always be something that is kind of within the industry at least. That is something that's always kind of been a thing, a badge of honor. Brewers making like crazy barrel aged, whatever, and just at the end of the day cracking a Miller High Life. Or a great example of this was that I have friends who have worked at Perennial, and I remember going down there and walking through cases of Abraxas or whatever, and then going to the back tap and there's day old Bush on draft, and that's what they're crushing. That's a badge of honor. It's that's
Well, in
kind of,
St. Louis too.
yeah,
you know?
St. Louis, of course, yeah,
Day old.
but yeah, exactly. But I wanted to go back to the sour thing. I think kettle sours definitely had an impact on wild ales. I think that kind of captured a lot of the people who are looking for acidity in their beer, and more so that where it is a cleaner profile in general. I think there is a certain kind of consumer who prefers a kettle sour over the wild ale because it is so clean and kind of singular versus a wild ale, which kind of commands more attention and et cetera.
The formatting on them is also, the format in which you encounter those cool ship mixed fermentation oak fermented wild ales is not encouraging you to crack one every day. By any means. So while we're on the subject of packaging and formatting, not suggesting they get put in 8-ounce cans by any means, but just, I think that is also a factor in lambic baskets. And
I want to get back to it, but the way my mind works, it's so darn scattered. So, the term cracked open or cracked a beer has come up a couple times. Does anyone know where that idiom, how that came to be, what that means, where it started? Cracked a beer?
It's got to be cans, right? Just
the sound crack?
crack a bottle too.
But
Yeah.
I feel like it might originate with cans. That's my guess, just because you kind of crack that seal.
Okay.
Seal. No idea.
All right. The one I've heard that could be right was to like crack something open in general. Is that before that corks existed, well before wine openers, corkscrews. So in order to open it, you'd have to break the bottle. So you'd have to crack it open. That's my guess. I don't know. Didn't really care to spend the 5 minutes to research it online.
If only there were a website where you could search
But
these
then
things.
I couldn't just just spout absolute garbage. That's the enemy of people like me.
We should all go back to savoring
Anything,
bottles.
everything.
Bring it back.
Yeah.
Retro.
That should be the new litmus test. I think, Kate, is can you saber open a
lambic.
wild ale? Yes, it has to be a wild ale. and it has to be in a basket, a wicker basket. So is there any? So what do you think is going to happen to all these breweries that are making that are really set up to make a lot of wild ale? So those, there's ones that are really highly regarded, and I'm not saying that there's, that these breweries in particular are in any threat, but breweries like Logsdon or Cascade or Almanac or Santadoris, or it just goes kind of on and on, or Ale Apothecary, ones that used to have this kind of air about them. Now, what do breweries of that ilk, not necessarily literally those breweries, what do you think that leaves for them if maybe that was a trend? Do you see it coming back anytime soon? I'm kind of skeptical of it, but I don't know. Maybe it could. I don't know.
I'm skeptical of a full-on. We're never going to rediscover those styles in America the way we did the first time. You can't go back in time and introduce America to these beers. But I am hopeful that the people who are into them, I think, are genuine enough that that they would keep seeking them out. I mean, I think, myself included, the people who genuinely like these beers still want them in our lives. I also hope that someone like Paul at Ale Apothecary, I mean, he has to sell 20 bottles of one beer, and he sells out of his allotment of that. I mean, hopefully they're not built on a crazy, maybe someone like Almanac is slightly different, but hopefully they're not built on this massive volume.
I hope so. They're sitting on the shelf in Illinois. I mean, that stuff worries me when, a lot of people are, and it's just the way I think I can be such a pessimist sometimes and so fearful. So many people were like, yes, Ale Apothecary in Chicago, that's amazing. And I was more along the lines of, no, why do they have to be here? I hope everything's okay with them because I really like the stuff they make. And to me, it's much more important that they are making beer, period, than that it's, is or isn't in my state. I mean, we got plenty of sour beer. Hey, I am very happy that Ale Apothecary is here. I love it. But, I just get a little bit nervous that they're so far from home, and I hope that it's not because they have to be and that they just want to be. We just want to be. No, we don't have to be here. I have family here, or just always wanted to be in Chicago, or you could be a million reasons for it. Because that was also a model that quickly was associated with wild ales. Jolly Pumpkin, I think, has been very candid in the fact that model of very wide distribution for a relatively small volume of production is what kept them going. It's the only reason they could survive, in coming from Michigan, where people didn't know what sour beer was. And speaking of which, Jolly Pumpkin. I mean, what does it mean for them? I mean, they're doing entirely wild ale in 750s. And, the brewery is another one who just had very wide distribution right from the get-go. It was part of their model. They switched things up a little bit and now have kind of like that wine club thing that they do.
Rare Barrel, too. I mean,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot. So, and they're starting to go outside their original footprint. Well, not Jolly Pumpkin, but now the fact that they are doing it, that's just more competition for Jolly Pumpkin. And I guess I don't have an answer. I was hoping you guys had an answer because I like those beers.
I think the state of American beer is you have to be somewhat diverse, especially with regards to kind of esoteric beers like that. I think that's a really big bet to make. I think that's reserved for less than 20 breweries. And if I just to make a guess, I think that kind of status is only doing wild ales. I think that could be reserved for less than 20 breweries in the entire country. Other breweries doing them, you better do them well. I think I think there will be a little bit of a thinning of the herd. The breweries kind of doing them just because they kind of wanted to be a part of the trend, and they're not doing them well. They're going to see them not move
well enough,
yeah,
or
yeah.
it's already crowded, and there's just not room for a 21st brewery. Maybe that person would have been, Rare Barrel had he opened 6, years ago or so, but there just isn't room anymore. It'll be interesting to see because
I think the great ones will be most of the great ones will be if it all goes, they'll be the last to go. So I'm not worried about the true kind of the best ones, to be honest. I think they're doing just fine, and I think it's kind of the lower end of that kind of spectrum. The ones not doing it great are gonna
4.1
bottle caps. Like, that's unacceptable. Get them out of here. Let's be done with it.
You should be out of it.
Brew a hazy. Call it a day.
Go put your cool ship on Craigslist and
That's
hang it
amazing. So yeah, I mean, is that what we're going to start seeing? Are we going to start seeing some of these breweries? Is that a sign? Right, I would think it is a sign if they start making hazies, because that's probably going to be one of the first things.
Well, I mean,
to
you
do
mentioned Sante Darius, and they've been making IPAs, so they've already kind of pivoted. You've seen Side Project.
Well, I use them on purpose for that reason. Yeah.
But Side Project, they started a whole other label called Shared that's doing clean IPAs, and so you've already seen that pivot, and that's just smart business, I think. They've seen that. They saw the writing on the wall, and if a brewery like Side Project's making that pivot, then you know that part of the industry is waning for sure. So,
yeah, because they have as much cachet as anyone. I mean, they're a 4.8 bottle cap brewery, if you know what I mean. Not to beat that into the ground too much, but why not?
I only refer to beer advocate scores. So if you can start referring to those.
Whoa! All right. Well, 2015 called, and it wants its beer rating system back. Well, let's hope that they're doing well, and that there's a nice, healthy comeback for not even comeback. I just want them to be around and healthy. I think there will only be so many, and who knows? Maybe the fact that people were, buying cool ships and starting sour programs and stuff like that, may hasten that, and better start doing some spontaneous haze whales ASAP. So let's move on. I don't think we have enough time to talk about tap rooms. Do you guys have any interest in talking about the fact that Bud Light is putting out nutritional info on their cans? We talked about it a little bit in the past. Do you guys, I mean, you do market research for Hopewell. I mean, you do everything for them. I'm assuming market research is also something that you do. Do you guys take note of that? Do you think that's relevant at all to your portion of the beer industry? I don't think they'd be doing it this way if they didn't think it was important.
I'm gonna trust what Anheuser-Busch is doing from a marketing perspective. I think it's actually really smart. I think there are a lot of consumers out there wanting to know calorie content, etc., on their beers. Even if they don't know that they want that, they're going to see that, and all of a sudden they're going to make that a point of differentiation between the beers that they pick up. So I think that's really smart. Bud Light, the beer itself, is never going to change. So from a marketing perspective, if you're looking at declining numbers or stagnant numbers, you have to find different ways to get new consumers, and I think that's really smart. And that's just, yeah.
Kate, any Any feelings one way or another?
I think the Bud Light drinker cares. And when I've covered this in the past, I was still at draft when the Beer Institute came out with their voluntary disclosure initiative that all of their constituents were going to aim for this by 2020. And the backlash from draft readers was like, oh, I don't care. Well, you're not a Bud Light drinker, man. Of course you don't care. This isn't for you, guy. This is for the people who drink Bud Light and the people who might potentially drink Bud Light if they knew how many fewer calories it had, which if that's not you, then that's not you. But I think the success of a beer like Michelob Ultra shows that there are a crap load of people that care. So,
yeah. Good catch there. So no, good catch.
I got to jump in. Personally speaking, I'd prefer Bud Light if they use London 3 yeast, if they put a bunch of oats in it, if they dry hopped it, and made it 7.8%. That'd be my personal,
Oh, they do that.
Preference.
They just do it under, their Golden Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
That's what they call it. Bud Light Golden Road.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So I believe me, they're doing that for you. They want to make that beer for you as well. They just know if they call it Bud Light, you won't drink it.
Bud Light Hazy? That'd be
Bud Light.
That could,
Bud Light Haze.
That could work.
Yeah, Bud Haze. Bud Haze. Do you think that somebody as prominent, a beer as prominent as Bud Light, having its nutrition information and calorie information on the can could, in a way, help beer overall, maybe inaccurately, in people's minds, people think like, oh, well, if Bud Light is, I don't know, how many calories is Bud Light? 100 calories, 110 calories, something like that. How much could this Two Hearted be? 175? When, it's probably more like 300 or something like that. Would most people think that a regular beer is 3 times the calories, and then that's me, again, not being, beer is fairly caloric, especially like IPAs, double IPAs. I mean, you're talking about a pastry stout. I mean, that stuff, that stuff could be 700, 1,000 calories. I mean, it's crazy. But, normally the regular version of something as compared to the diet version of something isn't generally that drastic. It's not like a can of Coke is 1,000 calories and Coke Zero is 0. It's, it's still 150 versus 0. I mean, that's, 0 is, infinitely less, but I don't know. Does that make sense at all? Could that kind of help people or maybe trick people into thinking that beer is less caloric overall than it actually is? I don't know. I could see that happening, personally. I think people could be like, oh, little buddy, that's a light lager just like Bud Light.
Half the calories of our 16-ounce cans.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think that would be the case where someone would see Bud Light advertising that and not assuming that craft is also low cal. I think
why not?
Because I think if you look at the packaging, if someone's making the point to say it and someone's not, then there's a reason for that. And I'm not the typical consumer, so it's hard for me to say. But yeah, I think going back to if they're putting it on the label and they say what it is, then that's a point of pride, in my opinion. And if you're not saying it, then you don't have a reason. Like, you might try to hide it, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think who knows? But I also could see someone going to a bar and saying, do you have Bud Light? Knowing that they want something, they want to kind of watch their calories. The bartender saying, oh, no, we don't have that here, which already says it's a certain type of place. And then, well, do you have Miller Lite? No, well, what do you have that's light? Like, oh, well, we have Little Buddy. That's a light lager because maybe the bartender doesn't know why they want a Bud Light. And them saying, okay, yeah, I'll take that. And then, they drink it, and maybe they'll never know how many calories are in that beer.
Is that at all a different conversation? Is that at all a different conversation than was already happening because it had light in the name? I mean, is that a
Right.
I think the actual calorie number, consumers already knew it was lighter, less calories, but if I was coming to beer kind of not being who I am, this would get me Googling some stuff.
Yeah.
I would, I mean, it actually, I did Google some stuff and I was like, Sierra Nevada IPA, 231 calories. That is twice as many calories. I mean, that's not an insignificant difference if you're a person who counts calories.
Oh, it's a huge difference.
It raises the question essentially by putting it on, and now it makes you're Googling what is the caloric content of all the beers I'm drinking, and it just, if they're putting it on there, it makes you say, if you weren't thinking about it in the first place, it becomes something you are thinking about, and then they become the forefront of that movement. And
you know who it might matter to, and I don't have much overlap with this category though, is the White Claw crowd, because that's 100 calories, and I think that was a big selling point. One can, 100 calories, and I wonder if that's now not like, oh well, Bud Light's only 110. I wonder if that's now in playing together. I mean, this is like a consumer that I'm not in their headspace, but I wonder if that's not a play for the White Claw crowd.
Okay.
I think that's a good point. I think I would agree that could be playing into that field too. Is how do you if you're Bud Light, how are you trying to position yourself in multiple categories? That I think the White Claw thing could definitely makes a lot of sense to me. I think people are in the health and wellness crowd, as we refer to them internally. I think that's and people do that in general. I think that's super huge, and if Bud Light can be something that's in that conversation for the White Claw drinker, then that's beneficial for them, and I think that's completely separate from how we exist as a craft brewery, though.
Yeah, I am curious. I think you could have some people Googling. I also will think people will take some liberties and saying, like, let's say it is a White Claw thing, and it's like, 100 calories. Oh, well, the biggest beer in the country is only 10 more, so that means that probably Miller Lite is probably around that too, and it probably is. And, then who knows? What if then Guinness? I think Guinness is really low calorie. I think Guinness is lower than maybe even Bud Light or right around that. Mm-hmm. And, if they start putting it on there, then people are saying like, whoa, and Guinness is that low? Okay, well, beer maybe. I don't know. Maybe it won't happen. I mean, in the end, I think everyone's going to know that beer, if you drink a lot of beer, you're probably going to get fat. I mean, it just happens.
Yes.
So
wait, what?
What?
Bread
makes you fat? Yeah.
This is news to me.
Yeah. So it's and even going back to the early days of when Miller Lite was first, that old ad campaign, taste great, less filling. They weren't allowed to say it was diet beer. But they, could kind of allude to it that it was healthy for you. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious if craft brewers could, have some unintended benefits from the obscurity.
Guinness is 125 calories.
All right, so it's a little more.
Yeah,
okay.
a little more.
Still pretty low.
Per 12 ounces.
Yeah, pretty low.
Well, but what craft breweries don't have, or what craft breweries do have to offer is, yes, our beer is slightly more caloric, but hey, brewery yoga.
Right.
That's the
Burn it
answer
all
to
off.
everything is brewery yoga.
True. And I think the other thing is, I mean, I've done this kind of crazy conversion in the past, which is calories per ABV, per ounce according to ABV, and it pretty much is much closer to the alcohol content is a much better indicator of how caloric something is going to be with beer anyway than even like style is. So generally what I remember thinking when there was like the Bud 55 and all that stuff, where they were trying to be as low calorie as they possibly could, you started looking at those beers, and some of them were getting into like the 2%. And, Mich Ultra, I think, is pretty darn low alcohol. And, I remember thinking, well, people are still drinking, like they want to have the effect of alcohol. That is still one of the reasons people drink alcohol. And, they're going to end up just drinking more and intaking the same amount of calories, but at the same time, paying twice as much at the bar, because the bar isn't charging you based on the calorie content or the alcohol content.
Well, if there are $12 mocktails now, then that proves that all that is out the window in a way.
I just had a CBD cocktail for the first time. And yeah, so giving you an idea of how that's all changing anyway. People are willing to pay for no alcohol at all in their cocktails. So
are people just drinking? Are people just getting way less drunk? I feel like that might be true.
Maybe it is. I tend to think there might be something. I think younger people are drinking less alcohol. I think it's also because they're health conscious, more health conscious than I think maybe we were at their age. And I don't know. I mean, if you really want me to go off the deep end, I can give you some crazy theories on that, or maybe what might be influencing it. But I also think that they tend to do more socializing virtually, and drinking alone is not really fun. It's a much more, I think, in-person social lubricant, and it's not as fun, especially when you're young, to do that by yourself. I mean, when you get older and you want to have a beer and watch a movie or something like that, that's, whatever. But, marijuana is, I think, gaining popularity with younger kids. Yeah, I mean, getting high by yourself in front of a TV screen that's a blast. Drinking a beer, I don't know how much, if that's really, if it's going to make you feel good or just make you feel depressed. And, if people are going out, the young people are going out less, even relatively. I'm not saying they don't go out. I'm just saying they, do more of their socializing virtually. Maybe that could have something to do with it as well, because I don't think beer really, or alcohol generally, is as good a fit for doing that. That's my super duper crazy hot take, but whatever. I mean, prove me wrong. Don't actually, because I'm not going to pay attention to you. It's about that time, everyone. I wanted to thank my very small crew. I will take full credit for this highly successful show. You're both welcome. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I wanted to thank both my guests. Jake, any final words for you?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me and allowing me to talk about Little Buddy, all that. A couple things going on in our world. We are about to release, as you just had, our new Pawpaw Sour Electric Jewel next week, which is really fun and exciting. We're continuing to expand that program. And then, our anniversary party is coming up in March, and we'll have some cool things planned for that.
How many years?
That'll be our third anniversary, so it's really exciting. We'll release our a peach sour for that, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be a fun time. We're looking forward to having a great 2019.
Very cool. And anything for you, Kate?
Yeah, just again, thank you for having me in for this flawlessly run show today. No credit to Jake or I.
Or Serge.
Yeah, you can read things that I write about beer at thetakeout.com. And I actually have a little Q&A column on Mondays called Ask Kate About Beer, where people can write in questions. So you can send it to beer@thetakeout.com if you want to have me answer a question that you have about beer.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. And that's, what is the address again?
Beer@thetakeout.com, or just thetakeout.com to read stuff that I write about beer.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Kate, very much. Thank you, Jake, as well. I suppose you probably had some part in the overall success of the show. So I'll give you that. I want to thank everyone else out there for listening, including the founders of Pipeworks, BJ and Garrett, who were playing a drinking game for how many times the word pivot was said. They were taking a shot every time pivot was uttered.
Pivot.
I'll be happy to say that up until I mentioned that drinking game, I had not said pivot at all. I also want to thank everybody else who's been listening. Thank you guys so much. It's been a lot of fun. Again, if you have any emails or questions for us, I forgot to say this. It's insiders@craftbeertemple.com. You can ask us anything or comment on any sort of thing that I said that was blatantly not true. I always love hearing from you guys about that. But until next time, we'll see you, and then next week will be more of the Insiders Roundtable. So long. Go, Serge. Go. What are you doing? Oh, it was flawless.
Yeah. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard.